everyone, my name is Aran. Before I start my speech, I want to ask one question to all of you. How many people think that the English is the only way to the globalization? Could you please raise your hand? You? Yeah, 2, 3. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Well, the reason that I asked you about this question is that I don't really agree with this opinion. Our school, CUK, is looking forward to become one of the best schools in Korea, which is specialized with English and also for globalization. However, because our school is putting too much effort toward English, I suggest that our school should support some other language departments. First, English is not the only way to the globalization. These days, the world is getting smaller and smaller, and people are starting to use a lot of languages except for English, and also English is no more accepted as a global language. So what I suggest is, rather than just putting all support to the English, schools should look for the other languages that will be really useful in the future. So for the second, students need to have opportunities to learn more languages. In our school, there are some departments that have few students, and because of that, even though they want to learn more languages and they want to take some subjects, all those classes are canceled. And one of my friends also is in a major of French, and I heard some stories from her, and she says even though she always selected some classes that she really want to have, but she always failed to take that class because it's always canceled. So I think schools should seriously think about this problem, and they need to put more support with it, like making more invite more professors and make some more classes that students will have a chance to take that course. And third and the last, because of this, students will experience a lot of things, and that will affect, because of that, students can have opportunity to get a good job. What I mean is that by experiencing a lot of language, students will be competitive with their recruiting system. And I heard that these days, language can be also one of the sources that can be positive with recruiters. So I think schools should support with these students to get a good job and also to experience a lot of new languages. What do you think is the real meaning, the true meaning of globalization? I don't think it's only focused with English, but also schools should look to the other side, other perspective, that other languages can be strongly effective, same as the English. Yeah. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
I kind of agree with your opinion, but it's still in Korea. English is really important for getting a job and startups, even if they have other abilities. So how do you think about that situation?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I am majoring in English right now, and because of that, I think that English is important for the first reason. But in real life, whenever I go somewhere that, especially with travel agency or other places, they usually use what should I say? They ask us to use other languages. I don't mean that English is not useful, but in nowadays we really need to learn more languages that can be, we can be more competitive with other people around. As I mentioned before, that the world is getting smaller and smaller, and people really need to speak more languages without English.
So this is a big hassle.
No, yes.
I want to say that the opportunity of learning English is not really dividable equally to all the people in Korea. Well, how do you get this? How do you wanna? And still, English is kind of basic language these days. So, what? Do you have a solution of that problem?
In Korea?
Yes.
Well, actually, I just focused with our school problems, so I didn't really think about other problems in Korea. But, well, if I can give you some suggestion, I really wish that, like, especially with our parents, I recommend them to make their children to have more experience with not only with other languages, but also with other cultures too. Because it's too narrow to just learn English. And yeah, is that the right answer?
Yeah, thank you.
And anyone else? Yes.
I agree with you generally, and I think the idea of globalization being centered on English is ridiculous and silly. Global means global, not American. However, I wonder exactly how you think those departments should be supported. And I mention this basically because you've probably heard the School of English is merging into one department, consolidating and getting smaller. In fact, at least one position has been cut. Professor Hurt's position has been cut. As far as I've heard, that's one less professor already before we've merged. I suspect there will probably be more cuts. If we are supporting the Department of English, whatever it will be called, less, how can we get the university to support other language departments if they're even cutting back on the Department of English?
In that case, first, students really need to have interest with their majors first. So because they have interest with their majors, they can claim some opinions to their professors and to school. Since I gave you the example of my friend, but still I heard that there are a lot of students who are not that interested in this problem, and because of that, it's getting this problem worse. So the first step toward that is students need to make their position in a right way, and also they need to directly find what's the problem with their major. And also, if it's okay for school, I suggest why don't they make more programs for students? Like, they can give some opportunity. For example, they have a global launch too. Well, it's not really useful right now, but since I think it's one of the opportunities that school gave to the students. So in that case, they can make more progress with other languages, and if that result is quite satisfying, then they can keep going on with that program.
So programs outside of classes and professors, like cafes.
Yes. So does anyone have
I have a question. You say languages, but is there a particular language or a group of languages that you think is more appropriate or you should focus on, or is it just languages all in general?
Well, for the first, I think that all languages with no limitation, they need to be used. But if I have to choose some, then maybe for Spanish or Chinese, those two parts is really needed to get cared.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I just want to say, how about, there is a French and other, there's a French department, and it's getting kind of smaller and smaller because people doesn't use a lot of it anymore. How about the French department? Because I think Chinese is getting, people already know the importance, so I think it would be much easier to get support. That's why.
Yeah, one of my friends was majoring in French, and I really want school to support that major, especially because in our school, that's the only one that's unique from other languages. But in case, like right now, I gave opinion that our school should consider other languages. Because in that French major's case, well, we don't quite use French in these days, so I think, in that case, we should consider a bit with it.